A lot of these healing spaces just create weak, feminized men. I'll say that again. A lot of these healing spaces, places that men are supposed to go to be able to work on their issues, their confidence, their substance use, their trauma, be able to work on things like setting boundaries, assertiveness. Male workshops are all designed to make you feminine, weak, submissive, basically a cuck. You're being conditioned in all these weird little ways and all these government-funded support groups. And like the things you're going to be learning are like, it's okay, just be agreeable, just do what you're told, happy wife, happy life. Look, guys, don't get this mixed up. I love women. Women are the best. I was raised by a very strong and feminine mother. My parents split up when I was young, probably about, they actually like split up when I was like 12, maybe 11, but their relationship was done years before that. Years. Do you know like how degrading that must have been for my father to like... So I'm just gonna paint everyone a little picture right now. I remember being a kid and like my father would go through these phases where he would just like self-sabotage, he would stop working, he would relapse, typical addiction stuff, right? And I've been there in my life too. I get it now that I'm an adult, and you know, now that I choose to live a clean and sober lifestyle and I've seen the effects of substances, I now understand, and I don't judge my father for this. I'm just trying to share a story. When I was a kid, my mother would like just be fed up with my dad and be like, you're just a piece of crap. All you're doing is just living on the couch, leeching off us. And it's so true, because my mother was a full-time bartender my whole life. You don't really see bartenders as a profession anymore. But let me tell you, my mother was a professional bartender, because back in the 90s, bartenders all had like their own personality. Each bartender brought their own vibe to the establishment that they worked at, and typically they were valued members of their organization, because so many of the customers used to give my mother like really big tips. I remember like there was always guys that wanted to like date my mother and like, you know, step up and be a stepfather, and like my mother had so many opportunities to just like go be with a guy for the money. And that was before she started using substances, and like now she's virtually unrecognizable, and I have no sympathy for her either. And the thing is like a lot of like people in my family, there's a good chance that they're probably gonna watch some of these videos. And that's okay, because the truth is, I come from a family where you do not talk about issues, especially when it comes to like the dinner table and Thanksgiving and Christmas. No one speaks. Like my grandfather, my father, particularly my father's side is very much like this. I'm gonna open up and speak about some of their issues as well, because they're my family, but it feels like they're not. And I'm not saying that to be mean, it's just I've been disconnected from them for so long. Obviously, I've had a lot of time to analyze what my family's like, because I'm looking for answers as to why I'm like the way I am. Why do I make the mistakes I make? Why am I like more likely to move in this direction over that direction? You start learning about your genetic positions, you start learning about different things like that, and how like people used to tell me all the time, because my father's depressed, because my father's an addict, I'm automatically going to be that way. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not a scientist. I don't know much about genetics. But what I do know is you don't have to be whoever you don't want to be. Growing up, I would see my father come to the door, and like my mother would leave for work and she'd be like, don't let your father in. I was like 12, but I was a pretty big boy and I didn't like my father and I was down to fight him. And that's the thing. It's like my father would come to the door so dirty, pathetic, just a loser. Straight up. That's the truth. And to this day, he still can't admit that either. He's still making excuses for why he was like this. Guess what? No one cares about his excuses. That's the brutal, honest truth. No one cares about my excuses either. No one cares about my past. No one cares about any of that crap. The only reason I'm talking about it is so that I can share my experience, and maybe you'll hear what I'm saying and it'll save you from making the same mistakes, or you're going to hear what I'm saying and you're going to relate to it, and that's going to bring you some kind of healing. That's what I'm looking for. My father would show up and like expect me to let him in, and I'd be like, dude, you're not coming in. Like, I'll straight up fight you over it. You're a leech to this family and I'm sick of it. And I'm 12 years old and like me and my little brother are going to school hungry because like you're just such a piece of shit addict that you're more addicted to a substance than addicted to making sure your family's okay. Addicts will make whatever excuse they want, but at the end of the day, unless they get real and they actually like are down to speak to themselves with some brutal, hard-nosed self-honesty, your chances of recovering are very less than average, I'll tell you that, because if you can't even be real and call the sky blue, you're going to go through some really, really challenging times, and you're going to find like some relief one day. It's going to take you years of suffering, years of being angry, years of being miserable, years of going in the same circle, but then you're going to come back around to that self-honesty piece. You're going to resent yourself so much that you're finally going to get honest with yourself, and you're going to see the patterns. You're going to see all the shit. You're going to see just how big of a piece of shit you've been. And if you don't, you're going to continue to be that piece of shit, because you're going to find a way to justify it. You're going to find a way to rationalize it, minimize it, and say, I was only this way because certain people were in my life. You gotta get real. You gotta look at yourself. The only thing that matters is that. Don't worry about other people and what they do and how they act and how they think. They don't matter. They're not gonna help you look at yourself in the mirror. They're not gonna help you sleep at night. When we grow up and we see these pathetic, weak men sitting on our doorstep, refusing to leave after a woman tells them we're done, that conditions you to be a little bitch. That conditions you to think it's okay to sit there and beg women. There's so many things that I was shown as a kid firsthand that I had to either unlearn, or I had to like be grateful enough that at the time I had enough common sense to know a man doesn't sit outside and beg for a woman, especially not in front of her children. Where is your self-respect, man? And the reason why I still feel any sort of way about this, and I'm still just like disgusted in my father about it, is because the fact that even to this day, he will sit there and cry on the phone. Oh, I just this, I just that. He will sit there and make excuses for all of his past behavior. It's pathetic. No accountability whatsoever. Last time I talked to my dad was probably 2 months ago. He's the kind of guy who will literally say nothing for years and make you feel like you're nothing and you mean nothing to him. Then when he sees you moving forward, he gets jealous. He's going to message and say, you shouldn't talk about that on video. You're going to ruin your chances of getting a job. People aren't going to want you around when they know your truth. These people, man, they honestly think that we care. They think that we want to be around people who only want us around if we're a certain way. Isn't that crazy? Because that's them. That's where they are. They're weak. They can be bought. People like that show me that they cannot be counted on or relied upon. So when people like that send me a message and tell me that, like, sharing my own experience that could save other people's lives is bad because people are gonna think a certain way about me, these are the people who watch the news every day. And anything that goes outside of like what the news has conditioned them to believe, I'm an enemy to my father because I think he's a child and I treat him like a child. He's never given me any reason to treat him as an adult. I've never seen him take accountability for anything. So my point of this rant was, there's a good chance you've grown up with men in your life who do not set a good example for you. And what I'm telling you is you need to do the exact opposite of what they do. Everything you've learned and seen and picked up on, you need to find a way to unlearn and drop. You can be whoever you want to be, bro. Guess what? It doesn't matter what people think about you. It doesn't matter what you think about yourself, man. All you need to think is like, I can do this. Dude, you can be whoever you want to be. And you're holding yourself back because you're worried to take your first step because you have people in your life right now who don't want to see you rise. They want to see you stuck with them. What they have going on, their life is their job. Their life is whatever the news tells them. Their life is the system. When you step outside of that and you start pursuing your goals, it makes them very uncomfortable. You need to get over that and you need to be prepared. You need to be in so much pain the way things are right now that you are willing to sacrifice anything to get out of this. The pain you're in right now is way more painful than the pain of the thought of pain of being judged and having these people laugh at you. And like, it's wild how much influence others have on like how we live our life. It's crazy. Food for thought.